Everyone, we are here with writer-director Ricky Glore, and he has a new film that's coming out. Well, he's working on it. It's called Open House. And Ricky, how are you, man?
I'm awesome. Sorry, I didn't know you were starting just then. I just shoved a carrot in my mouth, doing like the worst possible thing
Well, I mean, I could eat some
for an
chips if you
interview.
want me to.
No, 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 no. I always like rag on people on podcasts and stuff when you hear them just mouth noises. It's like the exact opposite of ASMR. Like it's the stuff you don't want to hear.
Isn't
That's
there
a
like,
food horror.
isn't there a word for that? Like, it's like an aversion to hearing people eating or something like that.
Yes.
It's a thing,
Hearing people masticate. My wife has, I mean, I don't, you know how people say they have obsessive compulsive
right?
disorder, like their OCD. It's like no one's really, like most people aren't OCD. Like people who are really OCD, like it's an affliction. People
Yeah.
that are just like, oh, I'm crazy because I like wearing stripes, horizontal, like, but no verticals or like whatever. I don't even know what I'm saying, but yeah, there are people that don't like hearing but there are like a real affliction of people who have an issue like nails on a chalkboard.
Uh, yeah. Well, it bothers me, but I wouldn't call it like a thing. So like, let's talk about Open House.
Yeah,
Tell me about the project.
as you see behind me, I have a wall of twos movie posters. I have Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, Phantasm 2, Scream 2, Halloween 2, Psycho 2. I love horror. I also love horror sequels. This, even though not a sequel, is our follow-up to our first movie, All Your Friends Are Dead. And there's a lot of things that we did with that in a micro budget way. It only cost us $5,959 to make.
Wow.
This, our Kickstarter, is a minimum goal of 15,000, which you have to get on Kickstarter because it's all or nothing. But things that I've done in my career, as far as like when I lived in Chicago, I would write, direct, and produce storefront horror musical theater shows, like A Nightmare on Back Street, a boy band musical parody, um, Fleetwood Fleetwood Macbeth, which was Fleetwood Mac set to done in Macbeth at a '70s radio station.
I love it. I love it.
Babysitter Massacre '78, the musical, which was a takeoff of Black Christmas and When a Stranger Calls. That Babysitter and the Man Upstairs urban legend. Anyway, all that's to say, we even wrote an original song for All Your Friends Are Dead. I love playing in the world of music, comedy, and horror. And if you can balance all three, I know it's kind of like a triple crown, hard thing to pull off tonally. There's only a few things in the horror genre that have really done it. But I love horror and comedy because if you're playing with both of those, you're not beholden to like really have to be scary. So like if something scary suspenseful pops out, it's nice because you're juxtaposing it against comedy. But then when something comedic comes out, it maybe comes out of left field and maybe hits a little harder because there's no one sitting there with their arms crossed to be like, all right, make me laugh.
Mhm.
Granted, the horror community, they're way more forgiving because the horror community, horror films are like pizza. Even bad pizza, you still get to eat pizza. And that's
Unless
how
there's
I think,
anchovies. So
well, that's how I think about like with horror films. I think we're so forgiving of that genre because the genre is so expansive that we will highlight like its little charms or we'll forgive like an incredibly low budget or no budget. But to bring it back to why the three different musical, horror, and comedy is I think those three things intrinsically are tied to our emotions. So like I know I can hear a song and immediately put myself back when I first heard it, or I have a deep emotional connection to it. Comedy and horror, I think similar. I think a laughter and a scream are on a very similar parallel path. So if you can emotionally drive all those things together, that to me is like the best form of entertainment. That is a pizza that has like all the toppings and maybe like a couple bites of it is good and maybe it'll make you sick by the end, but we'll see.
you know what? That's interesting you say that because, comedy and horror are generally paired together. But
Mhm.
I was gonna ask you about that, like why comedy, horror? and musical. And it's because they all have an emotional
That's what I think. I mean,
response.
like Little Shop of Horrors growing up, before I had even seen the Roger Corman and really knew what it was based off of, it was Frank Oz. It was some of my favorite comedians that I was watching on like SCTV with
Mhm.
John Candy and Rick Moranis, and then Bill Murray popping, like Jim Belushi, Christopher Guest. I was like, I love this. And they are all playing this surrealism in this almost Lynchian fashion. And it's dark. Like it's about abuse, it's about addiction in so many different ways. And I was like, yeah, I was like, this is what horror is. Like it's funny and it's lighthearted, but like these are tragic characters. And I felt something like that I was always more drawn to. And then when I got older, Rocky Horror Picture Show, Phantom of the Paradise, Brian De Palma.
Right.
When I find a property that kind of dips its toes in all, I mean, even like Elm Street 3, when it's hitting its like zenith, I mean, that's I guess Elm Street 4, but like with Dokken and that music video,
Mhm.
like there's an element of like fun perversity of all three of these things coming through, because it's funny to see Freddie with a hairband group defeating him, like in Patricia Arquette. Like, yeah, I don't know what it is. I guess it's the closest to like going through a haunted house
Okay.
where or an amusement park that is like horror based. Like you ride some roller coasters, you go see a show after grabbing some food in the square or something at like Disney or whatever. But like a haunted house, like you're like, all right, I know I'm with a group of friends. I'm going in here to have fun, right? Because you have to go in to have fun.
Mhm.
So for like a musical comedy horror, anyone who's going in to be an asshole to like nitpick it or like hate it immediately, one is not going to watch it. But two, if you do give it a chance and you're just like, all right, let's see what this has to offer. I think more or not you're inclined to like let your guard down and just let it wash over you and have fun and let it be weird, and let there, like what we're doing with open house, there's some elements of Blue Velvet, there's some elements of Motel Hell. There is not a strong like hit you over the head message, but it's a little bit of a deconstruction of like Americana.
Mhm. So let's talk about the plot, if you can,
Mhm.
for Open House. Can you give me a rundown?
Yeah, the plot is based around two central sets of characters. We have our psychos, which are Missy and Mark First, who are this small town reality team, but they're king shits of Turd Mountain. They are plastering their faces everywhere. They
So good.
are it's the representation of like everyone's looking for their 5 seconds of fame with social media,
Okay.
marketing and branding themselves, and finding a singularity that people know them as. So Mark and Missy First are no different. They're producing their own local commercials. They're getting out there. They're plastering their faces everywhere. And that's because Missy, at her core, wants to be a Broadway musical theater star. She's delusional. She has burnt all of her bridges in like the local community theater. You know, those kind of shows where
Yeah.
like the banker's daughter and the car lot people, the teachers are doing South Pacific, and it's weird. Um, that's why like my short elevator pitch is Rocky Horror Picture Show meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
My long one is Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets Rocky Horror Picture Show meets Motel Hell meets Waiting for Guffman.
Oh, I love Guffman. Oh,
And so the awkward, like how good Catherine O'Hara, I mean, how good everybody is in that movie, but how awkward they are and how the humor comes out of that. We're playing, I'm not saying we're playing on the same level as a Christopher Guest and Eugene Levy and how smart all those people are because they're comedy gods. But the humor, the dry humor, and the earnestness of how awkward and delusional those people are in that movie and those characters, which are very real-esque characters, those people exist.
mhm.
I think there's horror there too.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
you know
Well,
how
yeah, absolutely.
like have you ever seen those, they take non-horror movies and they re-edit the
Yes,
trailers to make it look, I think you could do that with Waiting for Guffman and it would
of
100%
course. Well, of course, of
right?
course.
Like they're constantly waiting
Yeah.
for him and they go to the empty seat. Like, did something nefarious happen? Did something And there's nothing worse of getting trapped in a conversation with one of those people that are incredibly delusional because you can see the light in front of their eyes, but there is just nothing going on behind.
Well, you could go to the Dairy Queen and get a Coke.
I just stand out front of the Dairy Queen. But that's so Mark and Missy first. Mark loves his wife Missy, and he's willing to do whatever he has to give her everything that she wants and needs,
Sure.
even up to the point of writing, composing, and directing and producing original musical theater in the basement of a house they have for sale, while he kidnaps audience members and restrains them and subjects them to while they workshop these
It's
new
very
pieces
bucket
of
of
work.
blood.
Yeah. And and if the audience members become unruly, as Mark says in the film, if you're not going to feed our art, you'll at least feed our stomachs. So as audience members have to get cycled through, they will take them and they will hook them through their hands and chain them up in the basement and take a kebab slicer and
Hmm.
eat them and slice them like deli meat in a grocery store.
Well, I mean, as you know, as one does. Um,
Cannibals, you know. They're
so
literally eating the weak and the less talented or the talentless.
well, I mean, yeah, it's like, chewing the scenery. So
Literally chewing the scenery.
literally chewing the scenery. So what inspired this idea? You say this is a follow-up to your previous film?
There are elements and there's some characters that definitely come back from All Your Friends Are Dead to help build the world of this film. And once anybody and everyone sees it, the Motel Hell reference will make a lot more sense as far as the cannibalism goes, with a character that reoccurs from All Your Friends Are Dead. Tonally, they're spiritually sequels. They live in the same universe, but we're just amping up a lot of the things that we felt worked in All Your Friends Are Dead, like the dark humor and the musical elements that we played around a lot with in that. But the inspiration for this came from All Your Friends Are Dead was semi autobiographical story of what would have happened to me if I'd have become after I hurt my knee in high school playing football, if I had become depressive, suicidal, and an addict. This movie is a what if I met my wife in Chicago and she became my muse, and I started writing original storefront musical theater, horror inspired stuff for her to be in because I thought she was incredibly talented and wasn't being utilized the way she should, or the way I saw her that I thought people should see her.
Hmm.
So when coming up with this idea, I was like, what if I examined that and I had a really exaggerated, psychotic, delusional version of my wife and I? And that's how Mark and Missy first came to be. And like my wife read it and she's just like, you know, there's a lot of stuff in here that is kind of conversations we had years ago while living in Chicago. And I'm like, I know.
I know.
To other people, it's gonna sound batshit crazy.
Oh my God. So let's see here. So where are you in production right now?
We we filmed a teaser trailer, which you see in the Kickstarter, and then like any indie or micro budget movie, we had an opportunity for a location that became available, and we acted on it, and we already had our primary cast and special effects with Trevor Thompson, his demo reels in the Kickstarter, awesome stuff. Music's already done, everything's ready to go, and we were set to start filming primarily um, on July 18th.
Mhm.
But a location became available that we're like, ooh, we can knock out 5 pages right now. So we went ahead. It was a montage with realtors, and we got it done. So I would say we've got a good probably 4 minutes of the movie already filmed,
Okay.
and everything else is scheduled and ready to just go once we get our budget. Like the train's moving. So Kickstarter, it's all or nothing. If we don't get our budget, we're gonna find somehow to get the money.
That's right. And you have your Kickstarter and it launches. Is it launched now? Is it
It is launched now. First day of launch was June 1st.
okay?
And so as of this interview and you're watching it, You can go there and look at all the perks, and I don't ever like saying donate because that sounds a little hat in hand. If you contribute or if you share this campaign, you're helping produce the movie, especially if you get the Blu-ray that we're offering. You're literally just buying, pre-ordering, buying the movie while also helping the movie get made.
Yeah, and this is kind of the, the way to support indie cinema and indie filmmakers is to jump
Mhm.
on there and check it out and see what they're doing. I personally think it's amazing. The teaser trailer, that's a lot of fun. That one's a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
and it's weird too because in the I think the teaser trailer is like 56 seconds long.
Yeah.
It was us trying to come up with a way to get across tonally everything we're going to try to achieve in the hour and a half version. Now, you don't get all the gore that you're gonna get because the movie, where it will be gory with the violent scenes, it's also going to get ridiculous and almost musical, surreal like as the movie goes on. So the gore will get worse, but it will also get less realistic, if that makes any sense.
Like very Argento or Kill Bill-ish.
Yes.
Okay.
Evil Dead 2,
Got
yes.
it.
So
Got it.
even up to the point that there is a montage song that's being performed while a victim is hooked up hanging from their appendages, and Mark First has the kebab slicer, and he's singing this almost 80s new wave kind of song while a montage has happened, and we see how he kidnaps all of his victims, and it culminates with him slicing up the victim hanging in front of him, almost as if like it's Flashdance, like when she pulls the chain and the water comes on her, he slices up on her and she just sprays him and he's just covered basking in her blood.
Are you
As he like,
telling me there's an 80s working montage? 80s music working
yes,
montage? Sold. Sold. Totally sold.
yes,
Um,
it's it's one of my favorite pieces that like I said, everything's already scheduled to film, but like I already have like a star next to that day because it's a lot of